everyone, it's the Backyard Bee Builder today, and I'm getting excited. It's a nice warm day. Don't have very many more of these left, so I thought I'd go out to the apiary and see what I could get done out there. I wanted to do some winterizing of my hives, so I thought I'd bring you guys along. I am going to wrap this hive. So as you can see here, I've got my two bottom boxes, my two bottom deeps that have the brood and the honey in it. Then right here, my next box is actually my sugar board and my quilt box, and you can check out some of my other videos for more information on that as well. So this is what I have here, and this is just tar paper or roofing felt is what they call it as well. I've cut this to about 80-85 inches, so that's what I'll use today. But just for if you're going down to buy it yourself, I would definitely recommend getting the 15 weight paper. Now before getting started, you can see here I've got a board, and this is just the board I had sitting around, and I've just pre-drilled it and put a couple screws in it. Now this just prepares, it helps me get prepared before I get started on my hive. Now I can go ahead and take the top off of this hive. So now that I have this on, I'm going to go ahead and just start by wrapping it. It's nothing fancy and it's pretty simple, but I'll go ahead and wrap it around. This screw is actually one that has a little bit of a washer on it, if you can see that. And that's just to kind of hold the paper on while you're wrapping it. Now if you have a helper with you, they can easily hold the paper for you, and so it's not so difficult, but I do a lot of my work by myself, and so you end up doing some neat little tricks. So to start out, you'll go ahead and just screw one piece of the tar paper to the side of it, and that will just hold it in place so you can wrap it tightly. And then you can just walk around. So once I get it to this point, what I can do is get my board that I had already prepared and stick it right next to my hive. And then I just have to screw it on. These aren't really long screws. They're just going to tack it onto the side of the hive. But that's going to keep the paper from blowing off. The thing with wrapping your hive is that if it's done poorly, it can be a death trap for your bees. And so we need to make sure that we always have ventilation with it. So I just kind of feel the front of the tar paper to kind of feel where the open entrance is, and I found the top entrance, and I've cut a hole right where that top entrance is. Now to give it a clean opening, I'm going to go ahead and use the staple gun to give it a nice tight fit right there. And I'll do the same down below. Now when you're doing your bottom, make sure that it's up out of the way so that it's not blocking the entrance at all. You want to make sure that the bees can get in and out freely, and that they're not going to have trouble getting the circulation they need. I'm going to go ahead and cut the top of the tar paper down about a 1/2 inch from the rim. This will allow me to put my lid back on. And I'll probably stick a couple staples just around the bottom. It's not really necessary, but it just kind of keeps it tight so we don't get any bees stuck up in there. So with that, I'm done, and it was pretty simple. I also, as part of my wintering, I have a piece of plastic, and this helps keep the water out. However, if you want to just get a piece of tar paper and put over the top, it works really well. It works really well too. So we'll go ahead and drape the top with this, and this will help just divert the water down over the top of the tar paper rather than inside the tar paper. There's a few things you need to know though about doing hives like this. If done poorly, wrapping your hive can just become a death trap for your bees. without circulation, moisture is going to condensate inside, and moisture will breed disease and mold. You need to make sure that you have an upper and a lower entrance. You need to make sure that it can get circulation from top to bottom, so that it can help wick away some of that moisture. Okay, so is wrapping your hive necessary to get through the winter? Unless you're in extreme weathers, no, it's not necessary. Is it helpful? I believe it is, and many beekeepers do. And so that's why I choose to do it. A big benefit to wrapping it in tar paper is the solar energy that you get from it. It will actually heat up your hive when the sun is shining on it. Now there's certain times when it's so cold that the bees are unable to move. If temperatures, some beekeepers that will get into their hives and they will actually find a ball of bees dead in the bottom of their hive in a cluster that died because of starvation, even though they had honey up top, because they were too cold in order to move up into the hive. So the idea with the tar paper is that with this solar heat that comes off of it, that they'll be able to at least occasionally during the day when there's a warm day and the sun's shining, it'll heat up the hive warm enough for the bees to be able to reach the honey in their hive, if they can move around in their hive and access the honey. Now that's only going to be when it's really, really cold outside. It is a benefit, but another big benefit of the tar paper is a wind block. If you get really gusty winds. So people use different kind of materials when they're wrapping their hives. Some people will even just use black garbage sacks. I feel like that would be kind of irritating to the bees, you know, just as the wind's flapping and they're constantly hearing that sack flap against their hive. People will use like political signs, corrugated plastic signs to put around their hive, and that can help to both insulate and kind of give a wind barrier as well. Some people actually wrap their hive in like the thick foam that you can get at a hardware store, and that is to help with the wind block, but it's also as a type of insulation. I don't feel like that's necessary where I'm at. If you do get extreme cold temperatures, maybe that's something you'd want to do, but I find this more than sufficient for my hives. Now, there have been years that I haven't wrapped my hives and they've done just fine. But particularly this hive, because it's not behind my windbreak, I'm going to wrap this one because it doesn't have that wind protection that a lot of my other hives have. There's a few pros and cons to this. Some people say that they don't like to warm up their hive during the wintertime because then it wakes up their bees become active, and then because of that, they will eat through the resources too quickly. And that there's one group of people that say that. There's another group of people that say that it actually can help conserve their resources because they're not having to heat their hive as much, and it takes less energy, and therefore they're burning less fuel, or they're burning through less honey. It is helpful in my eyes, as long as you make sure that you have proper ventilation. This makes it difficult to actually get into your hive during the winter time. Now, during the winter months, you probably shouldn't be getting into your hive very often, because the bees will actually go through and glue all of the seams up with propolis. And now every time you break open your hive to take a peek into them, which we all love to do, it actually breaks that propolis up. And then the bees are having to try to get more propolis and seal up those cracks again. But if you do it too frequently and they don't have access to enough propolis to seal off the cracks again, that leaves a draft in there, and that they're unable to get warm because we keep messing with them. Another thing you're going to want to do as part of your winterizing routine is to put on a mouse guard. Now, so there are mice that'll actually get up through the bottom entrance of your hive, and they'll make a nest in there, and they can just make a mess in your hive. I've never actually had to deal with it, but mouse guards are definitely recommended. Now here is one. It's kind of a commercial one that's made, and you can just get this, and it's got some spots to kind of screw it down to the bottom entrance, and this works really well. However, if you don't want to go spend a bunch of money on a mouse guard, you can actually just use some of your wire mesh that you have. I've got a bunch of wire mesh left over for making my candy boards, and it's just 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch wire mesh, and that works great. And so I'll just cut out a strip of that and kind of staple it onto the entrance, so the bees can get in and out freely, but the mice can't get in to cause havoc. Here you can see, here's another hive that I've wrapped earlier, and the bees seem to be really doing well. They're very active, very energetic, and I think that they'll do well with this hive being wrapped. hope you enjoyed the video. It's a pretty simple step if you choose to do it. And if you have any other ways of wrapping your hive, I'd love to hear about them. And I am the Backyard Bee Builder. Hope to see you next time. See you later.